when I was a 13-year-old in confirmation class and was told by the pastor what the possible careers were in the church and described being a pastor, I said, yes, that's what I want to do. And he turned pale and said, oh, but you can't. Our church doesn't ordain women. So immediately I decided that's what I did want to do.
I remember the first time that I preached shortly after my ordination in my home parish. There was an older guy who didn't think women should be pastors. He saw that I was going to be preaching at worship, and so he went outside and mowed the lawn during the worship service.
I actually think God was calling all kinds of women to be pastors and bishops long before the church allowed. Maybe the question actually is, what happened to the church that the church could finally hear God? And of course, if you look back at those decisions, they were simply, well, we think it's okay. We don't think we're going to get struck dead if we do this. It looks like, according to Scripture, this would be okay. No energy, no enthusiasm of, wow, let's invite over half of the population that for 2,000 years has been not allowed to be in that leadership role in the church. Let's let them be.
The women that I have been surrounded by have never attempted to be leaders as their male counterparts have been, right? They're not attempting or trying to be leaders like the men in their lives. They're leaders in their bodies as they are, and they use the gifts that God has given them as women. And I find hope and grace in that we don't need to pretend to be what we are not. We get to be exactly who we are, and God gets to use us or uses us precisely because of who we are.
I think women throughout the Lutheran tradition have been extraordinary in really paving the way for future women and showing them that this is not just boy stuff. You know, this isn't just men's work to be done. This is everyone's work to be done. Having our first presiding bishop, Elizabeth Eaton, be the first woman to be presiding bishop is really exciting, and we're living in a time where women in our church are doing more than ever before.
This older woman, I think she must have been in her 80s, and she had grown up in another Lutheran tradition, always felt called to the ministry, never could. And I was administering communion at a gathering, and she was weeping, and afterwards she said, I never expected that I would ever receive communion from the hands of a woman presiding bishop of the ELCA.
My hope also is the fact that our voices are actually starting to be heard in this church. And again, there's a lot of pushback, but when Emmanuel 9 were sacrificed and murdered, we had to start to address the systemic racism in this church. And what I'm thankful for is that this church actually started doing that work. And it's a long, hard work, and there's some uncomfortable places and some dark places that people don't want to actually even talk about. But the fact that we're trying to do this gives me hope.
If I think back to my ordination and I think of that day, first I would say keep wearing those awesome red shoes, because I had these glorious red patent heels that I loved. But then I would say remember all the people who were there. Remember the people from camp, from Yagam, from college, from seminary, from people who had known me since I was a baby, my Sunday school teacher. To go back and remember all of those people and remember that it's the whole church calling you into this work, and to be excited about that.
Without these women, I wouldn't be studying theology, and I wouldn't be bringing my daughter to church, and I certainly wouldn't be wanting to join the choir. These women have inspired me more than I can say, and without them, I wouldn't be here.